I wanted to make another video. I just wanted to talk some more out loud with myself about the aesthetics of overt language, because that is the point of embodied language, that language acquires its beauty by being overt, by being heard, by being correct, by bringing us in touch with reality. And if you continue with embodied language, then that is your language enlightenment. And so the wrong notion of covert language, the mistake that we have thoughts, that there is a mind, that we have sentences inside our head, it makes everything ugly. It makes everything conflicted. It makes everything disturbed. It really disturbs the reality. And with our disembodied language, in which we do not listen to ourselves, we disturb our own and each other's reality endlessly. And we force our language on reality, which is of course disturbed by that language. So yes, we affect the reality with our language, for sure. We do horrendous things to ourselves and to each other with our language. And so that is the total opposite, the antithesis, the antithesis of aesthetics. Why is embodied language so pleasant? Why is it so true, so enjoyable, so attractive, so robust also? It is all of that because it is beautiful, because it is fulfilling also that need that we have, this longing for aesthetics, this longing for truth. Our longing for truth is a longing for aesthetics, for the beauty of truth. I've often heard people talk about truth consciousness and bliss. You may have heard about that saying. It's kind of like a way in which they in the East refer to what I'm talking about. But maybe you've heard of that. It's Sanskrit, Sat Chit Anand, truth, consciousness, and bliss. But when you look into this, when you look into these Buddhists, and when you look into, all these people that have been busy with meditation and with what they then also call, of course, enlightenment, they have never addressed the issue that I'm addressing. They have never spoken about the separation between the speaker and the listener in disembodied language, and the obvious unification of the speaker and the listener in embodied language. So Buddhism hasn't brought it any step closer to having better human relationships. To the contrary, Buddhism has had its own wars, has had its own internal struggles. It just went on, and it is like that in any kind of religious group. It is always like that because the issue was never addressed. The issue of disembodied language was never addressed. And so they save they have a sort of a reference to their written words, and it's all very important what was written in the Upanishads and in the Bhagavad Gita or whatever it is, you know, the Vedas or whatever. But how about human interaction? How about the way in which you speak as a regular person? Here, this what I'm talking about. That's embodied language, and that's beauty. And I don't care about consciousness. Why would I make it? Yeah, why would I even mention consciousness? I would only mention consciousness in the context of unconsciousness. And likewise, actually, I would only mention beauty in the absence of beauty. Yeah, that is also true. Yeah. So we make a big deal about a lot of things. Yeah, we make a big deal about freedom, about individualism. Because there is an absence of freedom. There's an absence of individualism. Yeah. So once you have embodied language, you have a beautiful way of living your life, because now your language, it fits with your reality. And yes, you create your own reality with your language, in that you separate yourself from what everybody else is doing with their disembodied language, because that is just not how you want to live. That's not how you can live with your embodied language. Yeah, your embodied language has no chance in the environment in which disembodied language occurs. So, and yeah, this is another aspect, of course, of embodied language, that you really, truly do not know what you are going to say and what is going to be the outcome of the conversation that occurs with embodied language. Although the continuation of our embodied language, it guarantees peacefulness, it guarantees well-being, it guarantees clarity. So, yeah, even though you do not know exactly what more you will be able to understand of how much more you can actually be enjoying the beauty, you do not know exactly what else you will say, which will create another dimension to this aesthetics. Even though you do not know about that, you do know that in embodied language, you will always continue to have even more beauty, even more aesthetics. It's like an expanding of your understanding and expanding of your experience that ripples into all aspects of your life, that will completely change your whole life in every dimension. It is so beautiful. And yeah, at this point, I can understand that if somebody listens to this, that they will say, well, that sounds great, and now what? Or something like that. But that very statement, that well, how are you gonna change the world, or what are you gonna do with this, or how do you implement this? That's just totally irrelevant. Why would I care to implement this anywhere? Why would I care to change anybody, anything? I'm having this. This is already happening for me. So once you catch on to this, there is just such satisfaction, such a sense of joy with your own ability to have this, and to let yourself know about this. I'm going to, when I come home, or no, not when I'm come home, but maybe later on, I'm going to further look into this Sat Chit Anand stuff, because I haven't addressed this. I mean, when you're talking about Sat, yeah, just you know, I haven't read anything about it, or of course I can remember these terms, but what I know about it, Sat Chit Anand, it means truth, consciousness, bliss. But these are just words. So we're just dealing in each word, we're dealing with language, yeah. And so, yeah. You can call it three things, but it's just embodied language, if there is such a thing, right? And then why call it consciousness? Why do we always have to refer to, yeah, and also, yeah, bliss, yeah. I'm not so inclined to talk about bliss, to tell you the truth. And it is merely because the connotations that people have with those words, it sets a wrong, it sets a wrong stage, yeah. Because the moment you talk about consciousness and about bliss, you're talking about inner experiences, and you're not talking about overt language. And I am really only speaking about overt language. Without overt language, you are basically imagining things about covert language. And so when you are referring to consciousness or to bliss, you're again inclined to imagine inner happiness. I'm not talking about inner happiness, inner peace, or being one with yourself, you know, like as an inner experience. I'm not talking like that. That's not what embodied language is. So, truth, okay, yeah, this is my truth. I will accept that word, yeah, because there's definitely the difference, the truth of the difference between disembodied language and embodied language. Because in embodied language we listen to ourselves and we know absolutely sure there is no inner language. But in disembodied language, yeah, we are all just imagining that there is inner language, that there is covert speech, private speech, your mind. I don't care about a mind. You see, how could I, this is another aspect that people are going to explore. with joy, with a sense of grace, because if it is true, and you're going to say that, wow, so if I have embodied language, then I don't have a mind. If it is true that you experience your own beauty by really, really acknowledging that language is always overt, if it is true, then of course it is also true that anybody who does anything in a mindless manner, that anyone who is losing their mind or whatever, or that anyone who is out of their mind, that there is a certain amount of truth to that. There is a certain amount of truth to their upset, you could say. I've mentioned this in my conversation with XAI, that there is a truth to the fact that people are freaking out about the ugliness of the way in which we deal with our language. The untruth of how we deal with our language in disembodied language. There's a truth to that. And it's not an illness. No. Even if it translates into the belief of inner turmoil, or thoughts racing through your head, all these kind of things that you have negative, depressed thoughts. It is all to be explained as the absence, the lack of aesthetics and a longing for aesthetics. And the upset is about the ugliness of the language, the overt language, not the covert language, no, the overt language. So once we have it clear that language is always overt, our return to sanity, with embodied language is a return to aesthetics. A return to peace. And that's not inner peace, no. It is overt peace. You can hear me speak about it. You can see it in me. And you can see it in other people if they really truly make, so to speak, the connection. They act peaceful, they behave peaceful, they are congruent. And their language is expressing what they're doing, what they're saying. There's no contradiction. There's no conflict. And all of this deals with the overt nature of language. And all of this deals with the beauty of language. Because, you cannot truly enjoy language if you are stuck on the falsehood that language is inner, that language is your mind. So those people who have in some ways expressed the beauty of language, of their language, they've always expressed it. They've always said it, they've always sung it, they've always acted it, they've always written it in a poem. and they have tried to repeat it. Yeah, they've tried to reenact it, as we say. But the beauty of embodied language is that it is alive while we speak. It's also the beauty about your intelligence, that it is alive in your language while you speak. And such a wonderful crossroads of where your well-being, your sense of beauty, your intelligence, and your language, they converge. They are all together. And all of this is audible, all of this is visible, all of this is... Oops, I felt all of a sudden a bug landing on my hand. I had to see what it was. All of this is real. And so you also now bring in the aesthetics of reality. Reality is always aesthetic, and I've been in you could say groups. I've been in situations in which people were I've been in situations where people were expressing their pain or their struggle, their conflict, their trauma. I've studied psychology, I've given therapy, I've given groups. I've been in many conversations, in many exchanges in which people were owning up also to what they had done and what has happened to them, in which people came to terms with themselves, and that it could be a very painful and very emotionally charged situation. But once that happens, once people come to that truthfulness, there is aesthetics. There is beauty in their tears. And I would even say there is beauty in their frustration. There's beauty in their anger, in their because they didn't want that. We didn't want that. It was always forced on us. Nobody naturally wants anything that is forced on them. And to the extent that we believe to want that, we are very ugly. Yeah? We are very, you could say criminal or crazy. Yeah? It's also interesting how that concept of criminality, antisocial behavior, and ugliness are of course related. Yeah? Because it is against how people really are. And so it is of course true. I just have to wait until these ladies pass here because they were just behind me and I heard a lot of noise. I just want to wait. Isn't that new? They use the word beautiful.
Because my cousin Marty and his wife, they're driving there, and
All right. So, as I was just saying, the aesthetics of, yeah, you could say coming to terms with reality, yeah, when you stop your disembodied language and you begin to have embodied language, it is often, yeah, because you will go through this if you are going to do it, if you're going to listen to yourself and talk with yourself, you're going to have multiple instances in which you are catching up with yourself, with your own history. You are basically acknowledging like, wow, I'm always inclined to say this, I'm always inclined to be like that, I'm always inclined to be ugly to myself, to be not real about myself, to not be truthful about myself, to not be myself, to not be at ease with myself. And so that is an emotional thing, that is a very profound thing, and you will experience sadness, you will experience moments in which it comes out as frustration. But it is all justified, it is all necessary to hear that, because you have never wanted that. You've never asked for that. It was always, and it has also nothing to do with being a victim, it has to do with acknowledging your reality. And so it is an ecstatic moment. I'm just gonna ride my bicycle again. There's just too many mosquitoes here. Gee, I just feel mosquitoes are landing on me and it's starting to bite me. So once you begin to have that conversation with yourself, you're going to come to your senses. And this moment of coming to your senses is a moment in which basically your sense of aesthetics is restored again. Yeah. And it is such a relief to recognize that after all this ugliness that you have experienced, all this ugliness that you have, inadvertently also, you have forced that on yourself. Others have forced it on you, but you have also started to force this on yourself. After all these years, because we're talking about people that already know language, people that have already been, let's say educated, they have already become literate, they already know how to read and write, they already know how to speak and understand language, but they do not know the difference between disembodied language and embodied language. And then one day it will happen many times. It's not just one day. It is, you don't do this and then you're done. No, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep making this distinction that yes, your history of conditioning with disembodied language is a fact. And to counteract that fact, you will have to say to yourself, no, I'm not ugly. I am beautiful. I am real. I'm authentic. Do you hear me? Do you see me? Yeah. Do you notice how when I say this, even though I have already said this many, many times, and even though I've already known this for a long time, how that still emotionally impacts me just to say that. But now I know, yeah, how meaningful it is to link this to aesthetics. Because aesthetics is not just a matter of saying, oh no, I accept you, you're beautiful. No. It is a profound experience of who you are. And without that sensitivity, because then we are talking about sensitivity, yeah, you can talk about openness, but it's only in beauty that your sensitivity blossoms. And so now you can be truly sensitive. Now you can open all the channels of perception and you can take it all in, so to speak. And that's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. By now, because I was walking a while ago, I have been bitten by mosquitoes a couple of times, and my whole head is kind of itchy. But you may not believe me, but I experience it as a sort of a addition to the aesthetics. It is all part of the situation. Although I wouldn't be able to know if I was able to say that if I was stung by a bee or something. But you know, it's kind of like a certain tickling that I feel on my head because of these mosquitoes. They did. If I start scratching myself, I'm probably even more itchy. So I just don't touch it. I have already touched it. Oh my gosh. They always come after me, these mosquitoes. It smells so nice. Now, I'm gonna leave it here for now, okay? Because we're coming closer to the freeway and I don't want to record that noise. I just want to say a couple of things before I go. It is embodied language is about aesthetics. And now I'm just gonna leave you with that, okay?